I was sitting at my kitchen table opening my mail on a Thursday morning when I found an envelope from First Carolina Bank that I didn't recognize. And when I opened it, my hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the paper. It was a mortgage statement for $45,000 on my house, the house Thomas and I had paid off 23 years ago, with payments due monthly starting next week, and my daughter Patricia's name listed as co-borrower. I read it 3 times, trying to make sense of words that shouldn't exist, and then I saw my own signature at the bottom of the attached loan documents. Except I'd never signed anything, never spoken to any bank, never agreed to mortgage my home. Someone had forged my name. And the only person who had access to my important papers, who knew where I kept my documents, who had a key to my house and my complete trust, was my own daughter. My name is Ann Williams, and I'm 72 years old. I live in a small brick house on Magnolia Street in Charleston, South Carolina, the house my late husband Thomas and I bought 47 years ago when we were newlyweds with nothing but hope and determination. Thomas died 9 years ago from diabetes complications. He was a carpenter, a man who built things with his hands and our life together with his heart. We were married for 40 years before he passed, and not a day goes by that I don't miss him. This house represents everything Thomas and I worked for. Every brick, every floorboard, every corner holds a memory. We raised our 2 children here, Patricia and Marcus. We celebrated birthdays and Christmases here. We cried here when times were hard. We loved here. And we paid for it. Every single month for 24 years, Thomas would sit at this kitchen table and write out the mortgage check. Even when money was tight, even when we had to sacrifice other things, that mortgage payment was sacred. I remember the day we made the final payment. Thomas was already sick by then, his diabetes getting worse, but he insisted on going to the bank in person to hand them that last check. "Annie," he said, holding my hand as we walked out of the bank, "this house is ours now, completely ours. No matter what happens to me, you'll always have this house. Nobody can take it from you." He'd made me promise that I'd never put the house at risk, never use it as collateral, never let anyone convince me to mortgage it again. "This is your security, Annie, your safety. Promise me you'll protect it." I'd promised, and I'd kept that promise for 9 years since his death, until now, until someone, my own daughter, had broken that promise for me. I sat at the table staring at that mortgage statement, my mind racing through possibilities, trying to find some explanation that made sense, some mistake that could be corrected. Maybe it was identity theft. Maybe someone had stolen my information and forged documents. Maybe Patricia didn't know anything about this, but deep down, I already knew the truth. The loan application had been notarized just 3 weeks ago, right after Patricia had borrowed my house key, claiming she needed to water my plants while I visited Marcus in Atlanta for a long weekend. I'd given her the key without hesitation. She was my daughter. I trusted her completely. If you've ever had that moment when you realize someone you love has betrayed you in the deepest possible way, you know the feeling I'm describing. That sick, falling sensation. That disbelief mixed with a terrible certainty. My daughter Patricia is 42 years old. She's a real estate agent, or was the last time we talked about her work. She's been married and divorced twice, has a teenage son named Jordan, who I adore, and has always been what Thomas used to gently call financially creative. Even as a child, Patricia had trouble with money. She'd get her allowance and spend it all immediately, then borrow from her brother Marcus or come to us asking for advances. As an adult, it got worse. She'd call me every few months with some crisis. Her car broke down and needed expensive repairs. Her rent was late. Jordan needed something for school. And I'd help her because that's what mothers do. Over the years, I'd given Patricia thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands. I'd stopped keeping track because it hurt too much to add it up. Thomas used to worry about it. "Annie, you're enabling her. She needs to learn to manage money on her own." "She's our daughter. What am I supposed to do? Let her lose her apartment? Let Jordan go without?" "No, but we need to set some boundaries. We can't keep rescuing her from every bad decision." But I never learned how to say no to her. Even after Thomas died, even when my own finances got tighter, I kept helping Patricia whenever she asked. 3 months ago, she'd called me crying. She'd lost a big real estate commission she'd been counting on, and now she was behind on her rent and her car payment and Jordan's orthodontist bills. Mama, I don't know what to do. I'm drowning. I need help. I'd sent her $2,000, money from my savings that I could barely afford to give. But she was my daughter, and she sounded so desperate. She'd promised to pay me back. She always promised to pay me back, but she never did. Now, holding this mortgage statement, I realized Patricia hadn't just asked for help this time. She'd taken it. Without asking, without my knowledge, without my consent. She'd forged my signature and mortgaged my house. I needed to understand the full scope of what had happened before I confronted her. So I called the bank, First Carolina Bank, a lender I'd never done business with. I'm calling about a mortgage on my property, I told the woman who answered. I received a statement, but I don't understand. I never applied for this loan. Let me pull up your account, Mrs. Williams, I heard typing. Yes, I see the loan here. It was approved 3 weeks ago. You came into our branch with your daughter Patricia Williams and signed the documents in front of our notary. Ma'am, I never came to your branch. I was out of town 3 weeks ago visiting my son in Atlanta. There was a pause. Mrs. Williams, I'm looking at your signature on the loan documents. And our notary documented your ID, a South Carolina driver's license. What was the date? She told me. It was the Saturday I'd been in Atlanta, the day Patricia had my house key to water my plants. I need to see those documents. Can I come to the branch? Of course. We're open until 5 today. I drove to the bank with my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. My mind was spinning with questions. How had Patricia done this? How had she gotten past the ID check? How had she forged my signature well enough to fool a notary? At the bank, a manager named David Chin sat down with me in a private office. He pulled up the loan file on his computer and turned the screen so I could see. There was my signature on the application, except it wasn't my signature. It was close, very close, but the loops were slightly different, the pressure slightly off. Patricia must have practiced. Can I see the ID that was presented? I asked. Mr. Chen pulled up a scanned image of a driver's license. It had my name, my address, my date of birth. But the photo was Patricia's. My stomach turned. That's not me in the photo. That's my daughter. Mr. Chen looked closer. Are you certain? I'm certain. That's Patricia. She must have created a fake ID with her photo and my information. His face went pale. Mrs. Williams, if what you're saying is true, this is fraud, serious fraud. I'm saying it's true. I never applied for this loan. I never came to this bank. I was in Atlanta the day these documents were supposedly signed. My daughter forged my signature and used a fake ID to steal $45,000 using my house as collateral. Mr. Chen stood up. We need to contact our fraud department immediately, and you should file a police report. What happens to the loan? If we can confirm fraud, the loan will be voided, but we'll need documentation, proof you were in Atlanta, copies of your actual ID, possibly a handwriting analysis. And Mrs. Williams, I have to tell you, the money has already been dispersed. It was transferred to an account in Patricia Williams' name 2 weeks ago. $45,000. Patricia had stolen $45,000 from me by putting my house at risk. I felt dizzy. What if the money isn't returned? What happens to my house? If the loan is proven fraudulent, you won't be held responsible, but the bank will pursue criminal charges against whoever committed the fraud. This is a felony. I left the bank with a packet of papers and a sick feeling in my stomach. My daughter had committed a felony against me, against her own mother. I needed to think. I needed to understand why before I decided what to do. I called Marcus from my car. When I told him what had happened, there was a long, terrible silence. Mama, he finally said, his voice tight with controlled rage. Patricia forged your signature and mortgaged your house? The house you and Daddy paid off? Yes. And the bank gave her $45,000? Yes. Oh my God. Mama, you have to press charges. You have to report this to the police right now. She's my daughter, Marcus. She's a thief. She committed fraud. She put your home at risk. I know, baby, I know, but I need to talk to her first. I need to understand why. Why doesn't matter. She broke the law. She betrayed your trust. His voice broke. She betrayed Daddy's memory. He worked so hard to pay off that house, to make sure you'd be secure. And she just used it like it meant nothing. That's what hurt most. Not even the money, but the violation of everything that house represented. Every sacrifice Thomas and I had made, every promise we'd kept to each other. Patricia had treated all of that like it was hers to take. But what I didn't know yet was that the mortgage was just the beginning. Patricia's betrayal went much deeper than I could have imagined. I drove to Patricia's apartment. She lived in a complex on the north side of town, a place that was nice but expensive, too expensive for her income, which should have been a warning sign. I knocked on her door. No answer. I knocked again, louder. Finally, the door opened. Patricia stood there in yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair pulled back, looking tired and weary. "Mama, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk. Can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was messier than usual. Dishes in the sink, laundry piled on the couch, paper scattered across the coffee table. I pulled the mortgage statement from my purse and placed it on the coffee table. "What is this, Patricia?" She looked at it and her face went pale, then red. Then she looked away. "Mama, I can explain." "Explain how you forged my signature? Explain how you got a fake ID with your photo and my information? Explain how you mortgaged my house without my knowledge or permission? I was desperate." Her voice rose defensively. "I was drowning in debt and I didn't know what else to do. So you committed fraud? You put my house at risk? I'm going to pay it back. I just needed some breathing room, some time to get back on my feet." "With what money, Patricia? You're behind on your rent. You told me 3 months ago you were drowning." "Where is the $45,000 going to come from to pay back this loan?" She didn't answer. "Where's the money now?" I asked. "What did you spend it on?" "Debts. I had credit cards that were about to go to collections and my car was going to be repossessed and—" "You took $45,000 from me without asking, without my consent, to pay credit card debt? What was I supposed to do? I asked you for help 3 months ago and you gave me $2,000. $2,000. That barely made a dent. I needed real help and you wouldn't give it to me." Her entitlement took my breath away. "I gave you what I could afford. That money came from my savings, Patricia. From the emergency fund your father and I built over decades. I'm living on a fixed income. I don't have $45,000 to just give away." "But you have it locked up in this house, this big house that you live in all alone. It's not fair, Mama. You're sitting on all this equity while I'm struggling." "It's not locked up. It's my home. It's my security, and it's not yours to take." Patricia's face crumpled, and she started crying. "I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. I was just so scared, so desperate. I thought if I could just get out from under all this debt, I could start over. I could be better. I could pay you back." I wanted to comfort her. Every maternal instinct in me wanted to hold her and tell her it would be okay. But I couldn't, because what she'd done was too big, too devastating. "Do you understand what you've done?" I asked quietly. "You committed fraud. That's a felony, Patricia. The bank is filing a report with their fraud department. I'm supposed to file a police report." Her head snapped up. "You're going to have me arrested? Your own daughter? You forged my signature. You got a fake ID. You stole $45,000. I didn't steal it. I borrowed it. I'm going to pay it back." "How? You can't even pay your own rent." "I'll figure it out. I always do. Just please, Mama, don't report this to the police. Please. I'll go to jail. I'll lose my real estate license. I'll lose everything." "You should have thought about that before you committed fraud." She fell to her knees, actually on her knees, begging, "Please, Mama, please. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but I'm your daughter. You can't send me to prison. What about Jordan? What will happen to him if I go to jail?" The mention of my grandson, sweet 15-year-old Jordan, hit me like a physical blow. He'd already been through so much with his parents' divorces, with Patricia's financial chaos. What would this do to him? "Where is Jordan?" I asked. "At school. He doesn't know anything about this." "Patricia, I need you to be completely honest with me. Is there anything else? Any other debts or problems I don't know about?" She looked away, and my heart sank. "What else?" I demanded. I took out credit cards in your name about 2 years ago." I felt the room spin. "What?" "I used your information to apply for credit cards. I thought I could pay them off, but things just kept getting worse." "How many cards? How much debt?" She whispered. 3 cards, about $23,000. I sat down heavily on her couch. $45,000 in fraudulent mortgage, $23,000 in credit card fraud, $68,000 total that my daughter had stolen from me. "Patricia, you've destroyed my credit. You've put my house at risk. I couldn't even finish the sentence. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. It just kept getting worse and worse, and I didn't know how to stop." I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd given birth to, raised, loved, sacrificed for, and I barely recognized her. I thought about a moment when Patricia was 7 years old. She'd taken money from Thomas's wallet to buy candy, and when he confronted her, she'd lied about it. Thomas had sat her down and said, "Patricia, lying and stealing will destroy your life. They'll destroy your character. They'll destroy the trust people have in you. And once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to rebuild. Do you understand?" She'd cried and promised never to do it again. But she had done it again, over and over, and now she'd done it to me in the worst possible way. "I need copies of the credit card statements," I said. "All of them. I need to see exactly what you've done." She got her laptop and logged into her email, pulling up statements and printing them. As I read through them, my horror grew. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, a beach vacation, a new laptop. None of it was necessities. None of it was emergencies. It was all luxury spending on my credit. "You said you were drowning in debt because of emergencies," I said, "but this is all discretionary spending. You weren't drowning because of bad luck, Patricia. You were drowning because you were living beyond your means and charging it to my name. I just wanted Jordan to have nice things. I wanted us to have a good life. On my credit, using my identity, putting my financial security at risk?" She had no answer. I stood up. "I'm going to the police. I'm filing a report for identity theft and fraud." "Mama, no, please." "You've left me no choice. The bank is already investigating the mortgage fraud. When they run my credit, they'll find the credit cards anyway. I have to report this to protect myself." "But I'm your daughter. Doesn't that mean anything?" "You're my daughter who committed a felony against me, multiple felonies. And yes, it means something. It means this hurts more than anything I've ever experienced. But it doesn't mean I have to let you destroy my life to protect you from the consequences of your own actions." I walked toward the door. "What about Jordan?" Patricia called after me. "You're really going to let him watch his mother go to jail?" I turned back. "I'm not letting anything happen, Patricia. You did this. You made these choices. And Jordan deserves to learn that actions have consequences, that stealing is wrong even if you're desperate, that family doesn't give you the right to victimize the people who love you." I left her sobbing on the couch. The drive to the police station was one of the longest of my life. Every part of me wanted to turn around, to protect my daughter, to find some other way. But I kept hearing Thomas's voice. "This is your security, Annie, your safety. Promise me you'll protect it." At the police station, I met with Detective Maria Santos. I gave her all the documentation, the mortgage papers, the credit card statements, the fake ID scan from the bank, my proof that I was in Atlanta the day the mortgage was supposedly signed. Detective Santos listened carefully, taking notes. Mrs. Williams, I want you to understand what will happen if we pursue this. Your daughter will likely be arrested and charged with multiple felonies, identity theft, fraud, forgery. She could face significant prison time. I understand. Are you certain you want to proceed? Many people in your situation choose not to press charges against family members. And what happens to them, to the victims? They're often left holding the debt, the house, the credit cards. If you don't report it as fraud, you're legally responsible. So I can either lose my house and my credit and my savings, or I can hold my daughter accountable for what she did. Essentially, yes. Then I'm pressing charges. If you've ever had to make a choice between protecting yourself and protecting someone you love, even when they've hurt you terribly, you know how much it costs, how it tears you apart inside. Detective Santos filed my report and opened an investigation. We'll coordinate with the bank's fraud department. Given the evidence you've provided, we'll likely issue a warrant for Patricia's arrest within the week. I went home and sat in the house that Patricia had put at risk, the house Thomas and I had built our life in, the house that represented every sacrifice we'd made. And I cried, not quiet tears, but deep, wrenching sobs, for the daughter I'd raised, for the trust that was shattered, for the family that was broken, for the pain this would cause Jordan. But I didn't regret filing the report, because Patricia had to face consequences, and I had to protect what Thomas and I had built. Marcus called that evening. Mama, how are you? I filed the police report. Good. I know that was hard, but it was the right thing. Was it? She's my daughter, Marcus. What if she goes to prison? What if Jordan loses his mother? What if you lose your house? What if your credit is destroyed and you can't get medical care or loans when you need them? What if Patricia does this to someone else because she never learned that stealing has consequences? He was right. I knew he was right, but it still hurt. Marcus, can Jordan stay with you if Patricia is arrested? I don't want him to see that, to be there when it happens. Of course, Denise and I already talked about it. Jordan can stay with us as long as he needs. 2 days later, Detective Santos called. Mrs. Williams, we've issued a warrant for Patricia's arrest. We're picking her up this afternoon. I wanted to give you advance notice. Thank you. Also, I want you to know, Patricia contacted us through a lawyer. She's trying to negotiate. She claims you gave her permission to take out the mortgage. That's a lie. We know. We have proof you were in Atlanta, but she's going to fight this. Of course she was. Patricia had never accepted responsibility for anything in her life. Why would she start now? That evening, Marcus called. Mama, Patricia was arrested. Jordan is with us. He's upset, obviously, but he's safe. Did he ask what happened? I told him his mother made some serious mistakes with money and has to face the consequences. I didn't go into details. But Mama, you should know. Patricia called here from jail. She's telling Jordan that you're the one who did this to her, that you had her arrested over a misunderstanding. My heart broke. She's turning him against me. I'm not letting that happen. I told Jordan the truth, that Patricia stole from you, that she put your house at risk, that you had no choice but to protect yourself. He's angry and confused, but he understands. Over the next few weeks, the legal process ground forward. Patricia was charged with multiple felonies, identity theft, forgery, fraud. She posted bail with money I suspected came from her mother, my ex-husband Raymond's second wife, who'd always enabled Patricia's worst behaviors. Patricia's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, as an angry mother punishing her daughter for past grievances. They claimed Patricia had implied permission to use my information because I'd helped her financially before. But the evidence was overwhelming. The fake ID, the forged signature, the proof I was in Atlanta, the credit cards I'd never authorized. The bank voided the fraudulent mortgage, which protected my house. But I still had to deal with the credit card debt, fighting with the credit card companies to prove I hadn't authorized the accounts, filing disputes, repairing my credit score. It took months of paperwork and phone calls and stress, months of people treating me like I might be lying, like I might be trying to get out of debt I'd actually incurred. But I had one advantage. I'd kept meticulous financial records my whole life. Thomas had taught me that. Every bank statement, every receipt, every document carefully filed and saved. I could prove exactly where I'd been, what I'd spent, what I'd authorized. And the truth was clear. I hadn't authorized any of this. The credit card companies eventually cleared the debt from my record. My credit score slowly recovered. The bank confirmed that the mortgage fraud had been reported and wouldn't affect my ownership of the house. But the family damage was harder to repair. Patricia's trial was set for 6 months after her arrest. Her lawyer tried to get her to accept a plea deal, admit to the fraud, accept probation and restitution, avoid prison time. But Patricia refused. She was convinced she could win at trial, convince a jury that this was all a misunderstanding, that I'd given her permission. Her delusion would have been almost pitiful if it wasn't so destructive. Jordan stayed with Marcus and Denise. I visited often, taking him out for meals, helping him with homework, trying to maintain our relationship. One evening, Jordan asked me directly, "Grandma, did you really have to have Mom arrested? Couldn't you have just worked it out?" I'd been dreading this question, but I'd also been preparing for it. "Jordan, baby, your mother forged my signature and took out a $45,000 mortgage on my house without my knowledge. She also opened credit cards in my name and spent $23,000. If I hadn't reported it, I could have lost my house, the house your grandfather and I worked our whole lives to pay off." "But she's your daughter." "Yes, and that makes this harder, not easier. But Jordan, imagine if someone stole your identity and charged $68,000 in your name. Would it matter if they were family?" He thought about it. "I guess not, but Mom says she was going to pay you back." "With what money? She can't even pay her own rent. And even if she could pay me back eventually, that doesn't make it okay that she stole from me. Stealing is wrong, Jordan, even when you're desperate, even when it's from family." "I know," he said quietly. "I just wish none of this had happened. Me too, baby. Me too." The trial, when it finally came, lasted 3 days. I had to testify, had to sit in a courtroom and detail how my own daughter had betrayed me. Patricia's lawyer tried to make me look vindictive, tried to suggest I was exaggerating, tried to imply I'd given some kind of verbal permission that I was now denying. But the evidence was undeniable. The fake ID, the forged signature, my alibi in Atlanta, the credit card statements showing luxury purchases I would never have approved. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, Patricia was found guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 3 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 18 months. She also ordered Patricia to pay full restitution, $68,000 plus legal fees and damages to my credit. Patricia sobbed as the sentence was read. Her lawyer put an arm around her. And I sat in the courtroom feeling like I'd won and lost at the same time. Because yes, justice had been served. Yes, I'd protected myself. Yes, Patricia was being held accountable. But I'd also lost my daughter. Maybe not forever, but for now. The relationship we'd had, even with all its problems and her financial manipulation, was gone. After the sentencing, I stood outside the courthouse with Marcus. Jordan had chosen not to attend, which I understood. "You did the right thing, Mama," Marcus said. "Then why does it feel so awful?" "Because she's your daughter. Because you love her despite everything she did. Because this isn't the ending you wanted." "No," I agreed. "It's not." Patricia was taken to a women's correctional facility about 2 hours from Charleston. I didn't visit her for the first 3 months. I couldn't. The hurt was too fresh, the betrayal too raw. But I did write to her, a letter I agonized over for weeks before sending. "Patricia, I didn't testify against you to punish you. I did it to protect myself and to hold you accountable for your actions. What you did was wrong, criminally wrong, morally wrong, and devastatingly hurtful. You violated my trust, my security, and your father's memory. The house you mortgaged represented every sacrifice he and I made, every dinner we didn't eat out, every vacation we didn't take. Every luxury we denied ourselves so we could build something stable for our family. And you treated it like it meant nothing, like I meant nothing. I hope you use this time to understand what you did and why it was wrong. I hope you get help for whatever drives you to make these choices. and I hope someday we can rebuild some kind of relationship. But that will only happen if you truly change, if you truly take responsibility. I love you. I always will. But I will never let you victimize me again. Mom. I didn't know if she read it. She never wrote back. Jordan came to live with me after about 6 months with Marcus. He wanted to finish high school in Charleston, and we both thought stability in his grandmother's home would be good for him. We established routines. I made him breakfast before school. We had dinner together every night. We talked about his day, his friends, his worries. One evening, about a year after Patricia's sentencing, Jordan said, "Grandma, I'm angry at Mom." "I know, baby. Not just for what she did to you, for what she did to us, to our whole family. She was always so focused on money, on things, on keeping up appearances, and she destroyed everything because of it. Your mother has problems, Jordan, deep problems with money and values and responsibility, but she's still your mother and she loves you." "Does she? Because if she loved me, wouldn't she have thought about what stealing from you would do to our family? Wouldn't she have thought about how I'd feel watching you testify against her in court?" I didn't have a good answer. Sometimes people who love us still hurt us. Sometimes their problems are bigger than their love. In that moment, it doesn't excuse what they do, but it's the reality. Do you think she'll change in prison? I don't know. I hope so. But change has to come from within. No one can force it. Jordan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'm glad you pressed charges. I know that's probably a weird thing to say about my own mom, but if you hadn't, she would have kept doing this to you, to other people. She needed to face consequences. Thank you for understanding that, baby. Grandpa Thomas would be proud of you for standing up for yourself." The mention of Thomas brought tears to my eyes. "You think so?" "I know so. He always said you were stronger than you knew, and you proved it." Patricia was released after 20 months for good behavior. She moved to a halfway house in Charleston, required to work and pay restitution as part of her parole. She called me a week after her release. "Mama, can we talk?" I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, neutral territory. She looked different. Thinner, older, tired. Prison had aged her in ways I hadn't expected. "Mama," she said as soon as we sat down, "I'm sorry." I know I've said that before, but I mean it now, really mean it. I had a lot of time to think in prison, to understand what I did and why it was wrong. I hurt you in ways I can't even fully comprehend. I put your security at risk. I violated your trust. I dishonored Daddy's memory. I listened, waiting to see if there was more. I'm in therapy now, court mandated, but I'm actually working at it, trying to understand why I make the choices I make, why money and things became so important that I'd sacrifice my own family. And what have you learned? That I've been running from my own inadequacy my whole life, trying to prove I was successful, trying to look like I had it together, trying to keep up with people I thought mattered. And I was willing to sacrifice anything, honesty, integrity, family, to maintain that image. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect our relationship to go back to what it was. But I want you to know that I understand what I did was wrong, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it right. How are you going to pay the restitution? I got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't pay much, but it's honest work. I'm paying you back $50 a week. At that rate, it'll take me 26 years to pay back the $68,000, but I'm going to do it. I looked at my daughter and saw something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine remorse. Genuine humility. Genuine commitment to change. Patricia, I appreciate you saying all this, and I want to believe you've changed. But trust isn't rebuilt with words. It's rebuilt with consistent actions over time. I know, and I'm prepared to do that work. Then let's start slowly. Weekly coffee meetings. We talk, we see how it goes. If you're consistent, if you're honest, if you follow through on your commitments, maybe we can rebuild something. Thank you, Mama. That's more than I deserve. Over the next 2 years, Patricia did exactly what she said she'd do. She worked her receptionist job. She paid $50 a week toward restitution, never missing a payment. She went to therapy. She lived simply, without the luxury spending that had defined her life before. She rebuilt her relationship with Jordan slowly, earning back his trust through consistency and honesty. And she rebuilt her relationship with me, not to what it was, that was impossible, but to something new, something more honest, more boundaried, more realistic. I never gave her access to my house again, never gave her my financial information, never put myself in a vulnerable position with her. But I did see her every week for coffee. I did celebrate her small victories, 6 months sober from shopping addiction, a year without any new debt, a promotion at work. I did allow myself to hope that she'd truly changed. One Sunday afternoon, about 3 years after her release, Patricia and I were sitting on my porch. She'd brought Jordan with her, and we'd just finished lunch. "Mama," Patricia said, "I want to tell you something." "What's that?" "I'm grateful you pressed charges. I know that sounds strange, but if you hadn't, I never would have hit bottom. I would have kept lying and stealing and manipulating. I would have destroyed more lives, maybe even Jordan's. I didn't do it to help you. I did it to protect myself. I know, but it helped me anyway. It forced me to face who I'd become, and it gave me the chance to become someone better." I looked at my daughter and felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope. Now, if you're listening to this story, if you're an older woman who's been financially exploited by your own children, if you've discovered fraud or theft or manipulation by someone you trusted completely, I need you to hear this. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to press charges. You have the right to hold your children accountable, even when it breaks your heart. Love does not mean allowing people to victimize you. Family does not give someone the right to steal from you, to forge your signature, to put your security at risk. I know what you're thinking right now, but they're my child. How can I send my own child to jail? Here's what I learned. By holding Patricia accountable, I gave her the only chance she had to truly change. If I'd protected her from consequences, if I'd paid her debts and let her continue on the same path, she would have destroyed herself eventually. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the full weight of their actions. And sometimes the most necessary thing you can do is protect yourself, even from your own children. Your financial security matters. The home you worked your whole life to pay for matters. Your credit, your savings, your stability, all of it matters. Don't sacrifice it to protect someone who's harming you. If you discover that your child has committed fraud, forged your signature, opened accounts in your name, stolen your identity, document everything. Get copies of all fraudulent documents. Pull your credit report. Contact the banks and credit card companies. Then file a police report. I know it's terrifying. I know every part of you wants to protect your child, but you have to protect yourself first. Work with the fraud departments of the banks. They're experienced with this. They'll guide you through the process of disputing fraudulent charges and accounts. Get a lawyer if you need one. Elder law attorneys specialize in cases like this. They understand the unique dynamics when family members commit financial abuse. And prepare yourself emotionally. Your child will likely be angry. They'll accuse you of betrayal. They'll claim you're choosing money over family. They'll try to make you the villain. Don't believe them. You're not the villain. They are. They're the ones who stole, who lied, who betrayed trust. Your job is to protect yourself. Their job is to face the consequences of their choices. It will be hard. It will hurt. You will doubt yourself 1,000 times, but your security is worth fighting for. Your home is worth protecting. Your dignity is worth defending. I stood up to my daughter when she'd stolen nearly $70,000 from me, when she'd forged my name and put my house at risk, when she'd violated every bit of trust I'd ever given her. And yes, it led to her arrest, her conviction, her imprisonment. It tore our family apart for a while, but it also gave her the chance to change, and it protected me from losing everything Thomas and I had built. You can do the same. You can press charges, you can protect yourself, you can hold your children accountable while still loving them. Those things are not mutually exclusive. Your children may hate you for a while. They may turn other family members against you. They may claim you're cruel or vindictive. But you'll know the truth. You'll know you did what was necessary. You'll know you protected what your spouse and you worked for. You'll know you maintained your dignity and your security, and that knowledge will sustain you through the hard times. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. Don't let anyone convince you that being a good mother means allowing your children to destroy you. Real love includes boundaries. Real love includes accountability. Real love sometimes means letting people face the consequences of their actions, no matter how much it hurts. Stand strong, protect yourself, file the reports, press the charges if necessary. Your security is not negotiable. Your home is not up for grabs. Your dignity is worth defending. And somewhere in Charleston, there's a 72-year-old widow who understands exactly what you're going through, who made the hardest choice of her life to protect herself, who's still standing, still secure, still in the home she and her husband built together. You can be standing too, strong and secure and protected. Don't let anyone, not even your own children, steal that from you. You're worth fighting for. And fifth, stand firm. When they pressure you, say no. When they guilt you, say no. When they threaten you, say no. And then stop engaging. Don't explain, don't justify, don't argue. Just hold your boundary. It will be hard. You will doubt yourself. You will feel guilty. You will miss the people who are trying to manipulate you. But you will survive it. And on the other side, you will have your dignity, your security, and your self-respect. You spent your whole life working hard, sacrificing, building something for yourself. You deserve to keep it. You deserve to benefit from it. You deserve to feel safe and secure in your old age. Don't let anyone take that from you. You are not selfish for protecting yourself.